We acknowledge and respect the first humans of the unceded land we call San Francisco, the Ramaytush Ohlone. We condemn the genocide of these and other tribes across the Western Hemisphere. We honor their legacy and history, and we support rematriation and sovereignty efforts. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Storied San Francisco, a podcast all about the people and places that make this city unique. I'm your host, Jeff Hunt. This is part 2 of our episode on the San Francisco Women's Building. In it, we sit back down with content specialist / social media manager Maria Arteaga and community engagement coordinator Kristen Acosta. This conversation covers too many topics to list off here, so I'll step out of the way. Here's Maria, followed by Kristen.
And for example, I did many like browsing archives and internet to find amazing stuff. Like other thing that I found is like the Poetry Center just to hold like the poetry readings here at the Women's Building, and there is a very powerful poetry readings with June Jordan at the auditorium, Audre Lorde, Pat Parker. So you can find it on the internet. We made a post about it, and it's like so many people have been here at the building, and the Women's Building has been like a part of many history and many it has hosted like many events, but also it was like the plurality, not just only like conference or just this kind of gatherings, but it was also space for the community. And I know many stories with the people that they have their quinceañeras here, or like the, I don't know, baptism or first communions or something like that, or weddings, whatever. So it was just kind of the vibe. And also I was like, a while ago, I received a tweet of a person who told me that Green Day had a concert here.
Of course.
at the auditorium, and he was skating there, like super chill. And at that time, they have like many punk concerts here in the 90s.
I feel like I've heard that as well. I love it. Also, would you say like from the beginning, another function of the place is to serve as a safe space, right? For what we now call female identifying or woman identifying folks.
Yeah, actually, when they acquired the building, another thing that it was very important is the support and uplift other organizations here with like working with this similar same mission, and many now big nonprofits also in the Bay Area. They were just like born here. For example, La Casa de las Madres.
Oh, okay.
It was just like started here. Women's Foundation of California also it was from here. QUAB. I didn't know that. Kirsten told me. And many organizations, they were just here. And now, like, because we keep those organizations and as a part of our community, and we have, for example, like Mujeres Unidas y Activas, as a part of like the coalition of California domestic workers. We have like Girls of the Run. We now welcome our new partner. Actually, this is gonna be like kind of official because it's the first announcement of it. Like ELA, which is ELA para Trans Latinas, is like just our newcomer like organization here. They're gonna be at the 3rd floor, and also we have San Francisco Parents for Public Schools in San Francisco, and
we have the preschool downstairs, Mission Neighborhood Center. Girls, did you say Girls on the Way?
Yes.
Okay. Did you say Mujeres Unidas Activas? You did. Okay.
Well, we cover.
We have. I think we covered all of them. Yeah, there's 8. Yeah.
If I can draw a potentially cheesy analogy, but it's kind of obvious. It's like the groups that have started here as almost like the children, and then the groups that come in it's like taking in foster children or orphans or, like, so it's I think, fully on brand.
Yeah. I like the book.
For the women's building to serve these functions, right? I mean, it makes a lot of sense. And again, so sometimes, like, for instance, when we have small business owners on our show, and I like to hear, like, oh, you know, who has worked at XYZ place and then gone on to start their own business that usually is, like, something that still exists. And it's like, well, all that just speaks something about the origin. And I think what we're talking about speaks to this history and this legacy of this place, I think.
It does, yeah.
Yeah, and I just like, it's my part, of course it's part of my job, but it's just like, I really enjoy it, like to, on every conversation that I engage with a person who is not like working in the nonprofit environment or whatever, like when they ask me, what do you do? I'm like, okay.
What all do you do? What do I not do?
Let me know how much time do you have to discuss this. And I find myself like speaking a lot always about the job that I do and the organization, because like it's just part of me, and it's like very part of my history, and I have been able just to be part of the community and support the community, and also like met amazing women and having an amazing coworkers. So I think that it has been like a and many people working here also say that. So I think that this kind of like the TWB experience.
Do you pinch yourself a little bit every day?
No.
All right, Kristen, do you want to speak to currently, and then I will after this have some questions about the women's building role and some more recent things that have happened in the world and in San Francisco. But if you want to tell folks about
where we are now.
Yeah,
where we are now. Yeah, I think definitely our history is, as Maria said, it's such an important part of where we are now. And also the women's building has always done things like in response to community needs and to what's going on in the world. So it's not like we do this and we're going to stay like this. It's definitely changed. And it also because of needs, like I think when we started off, we definitely, as Maria was sharing, like a very rooted in maybe like how we would say like leftist, like Marxist, Leninist, like roots, and like, you know, like how are we going to change this? How are we going to change the world which we're in? And I think like we definitely, that's still our like that's what we're rooted in, is like how do we change society and how do we also move with community to make those societal changes possible. So it's like both through like the programs that we serve and like how we serve and how we do what we do. Our programs are all in our first floor in the community resource room, and really like what we're rooted in is just meeting people where they're at. Like people come to us, women come to us literally like their first or second day here. We've had stories where women are like,
here in San Francisco?
Yes, like they're like, I just got here from El Salvador, I just got here from Honduras, and just these amazing stories of these amazing resilient women, just trying to like, you know, learn the landscape of San Francisco and get those tools that they need for themselves and for their family. So right now, a lot of our programs we really serve as a resource center, like a meeting point where we're able to give people what they need, and a lot of it is referring them out. But sometimes we can also serve them within the either within the building from our other partner organizations that are here,
right, or
with our programs that we have. So some of the programs that we have, just to name a few, are like our resource clinics, which that's where like anything you need, we'll meet you where you're at. You need this translated? Okay, we'll translate this for you. You need to find a job. So we have job search, we have technology assistance, and we have our legal clinic. So
I was going to say law, taxes.
Yes, taxes.
Like getting a job.
Really like anything and everything. We really we really like offer a lot, and and then the thing is that it's not only in English. We also offer, it's like everything's in Spanish, so English and Spanish.
At a base level, those two languages.
Yes.
Other languages as needed, or
yes, other languages as needed. So we've
That's
had
excellent.
in our food pantry, we serve a huge Chinese community, many who speak Cantonese, and we are sometimes fortunate to have Cantonese speaking volunteers.
Excellent.
We usually do. I think sometimes there might be times when we don't, but most of the time, like 90% of the time, we have amazing Cantonese speaking volunteers who are able to also support in that, because we are very big on community. We want everybody to feel welcome, and we want people to be feel comfortable speaking what they need in their language and the comfortable.
Is Tagalog for it?
We do actually have So in our food pantry specifically.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and then on top of the programs, like I was sharing, we've really expanded and started to do more advocacy, and like not just advocacy and like we're changing policies, but also like in the community engagement side. So we really make intentional partnerships with what the issues our community is facing, and it's, you know, a lot of it's reproductive rights, women's rights in general.
We'll get to that.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
Sure.
But women's rights in general, you know, rights in the workplace, like I was saying, making sure, you know, what, like, if this is happening, my boss is doing this, is this okay? And it's like, no, these are what your rights are, even if you are undocumented.
That's amazing, I'm going to say, because, so I'm obviously a cisgendered, straight, white man, but it does occur to me, and it has occurred to me in my professional career, of like, human resources might not always feel safe to people. So to have something outside of a workplace, I think is really amazing and important.
Yeah. And I think also it's important to lift up that a lot of the women that come to the women's building are from like different parts of Latin America, and they're recent immigrants. Some of them may not have quote unquote papers, and like it's like that's usually like the most vulnerable of women, and that's where people take the most advantage of. So there isn't a human resources. If you're cleaning somebody's house, there isn't a human resources. So it's like really intentionally building partnerships with other organizations like Mujeres Unidas y Activas, and then the California Domestic Rights Coalition. They're here. That's who we forgot. I was like, quiet.
There it is.
Yeah. They're doing amazing work like for domestic workers, and you know, working, once again, like that collective vision and value of working together, and how do we work together so that women are getting the resources that you need to make the decisions they want, and not only to survive here, but hopefully thrive one day. Yeah.
Absolutely. One other topic I wonder, housing.
Yes.
Do you have some support for that?
Yes, so we definitely have housing support.
Super tricky one in San Francisco and the Bay Area.
Exactly. And I mean,
in general, for everyone.
Everyone, yeah.
But like,
yeah, and like, yeah, what we were sharing earlier, like I think how I was sharing how gentrification is a huge issue here, and what you're sharing, and it's like very much impact like all of the people that come here, even as workers. It's hard to find housing here, even if you have a full-time job. And we do support with like affordable housing through the city. Sometimes we have to get creative. Sometimes it's like, once again, the collective and community, like, oh, you know what? This person is also looking for housing. Like, how do we connect you? And things like that, because it is so hard. Yeah. And then on top of that, we also do a lot of housing advocacy. Like working with other amazing organizations like Housing Rights Committee and Eviction Defense Committee, and making sure that folks have that information. During COVID, we like did the rental relief, making sure that folks were in that program. A lot of like education and like just, you know, putting all the information out there in like easily accessible ways. And then we also are part of the Plaza 16 Coalition. So
I'm not familiar.
So the Plaza 16 Coalition is a coalition made of a lot of different organizations around San Francisco and even the Bay Area. So they were trying, back in 2013, okay, you might know it by this, No Monster in the Mission.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, yeah. Oh, yeah. I was like, you'll know it. Yeah, so yeah, we're part of that coalition, like making sure that we've already defeated the monster, so we're good with that. But how do we continue to move towards making 100 affordable housing? So that's like our next step. So sometimes these changes are not overnight. That's like a 10-year fight.
Yeah.
So it's like also keeping that in mind.
It will keep
It's going to keep going because gentrification, yeah. And like these prices, the market, it's all, in favor of the system.
Sometimes I'm wondering, I'm like, what if there was no one fighting back?
Exactly.
How bad would it?
Yeah. I mean,
those are my dark moments.
No, but that's exactly like it's true because, for example, I've been talking about a lot of the people we're in partnership with, but Trabajadores Unidos, we did like a workers' rights with them, and so for example, the minimum wage in California is less than what the minimum wage in San Francisco is. And it's because San Francisco really gets it together. They really know how to organize and collectively advocate for these changes. And it's like, that's what's important. Once again, we have to really just get together and collectively organize to make these changes. And yeah, it would be worse if we weren't fighting back and if somebody wasn't resisting against these.
And that actually inspired, like when I go to those dark places, it inspires me. I'm like, oh yeah, there are all these amazing people to pushing back to get things to where they are and hopefully keep going. Okay, thank you. Yeah. We touched a little bit on reproductive rights and justice. I also want to know, I'm not going to name any obvious names, but like since 2016, let's just say.
Yeah.
And that kind of coincides, I feel like, with your time in San Francisco, at least. But what sort of you spoke to the somewhat reactive nature of a lot of the programs here, but like this is the very recent past, and it's in weird ways the current situation. So, like, in what ways has the Women's Building responded to some of these? We never thought these things would happen, and here we are. So, I'm just curious what kind of programs exist around any of the issues that have come up.
I think
from immigration to all the way,
Well, first of all, with immigration, we have the immigration clinic, and we offer also immigration. We have, I don't know, like with Javier, which is the lawyer who has been with us for,
I think like 8 years.
8 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and we offer advice and everything that they need to know. But one thing, for example, that Kirsten don't mention, another of our programs in partnership with Lutheran Immigrant Services, we have the Family Reunification Program, which is the only one in the Bay Area who helps undocumented minors to be reunited with their sponsors here in the Bay Area and sometimes like outside the Bay Area. Okay. So we have an amazing team of fingerprinters and case managers who follow the process since the beginning, like fingerprinting and just helping like the sponsors to know what entails to be responsible for this like minor, and just because they need a place where they feel safe, because they usually like they just don't know and they get suspicious, and we just like reassure to them that it's gonna be confidential, and we're gonna be like speaking with them in their like language that they feel comfortable. So we have an amazing team like of fingerprinting, and they also support like all the sponsors in this long and very like tumultuous process. And then in the second part, we have the case managers who help the minors to be reunified, and also just give information, refer our resources to the minors once they are here in the Bay Area. And they follow the cases for 1 year or until like they have like relief, or until they turn 18. So it's a very like deep through program, and we have an amazing group of like persons working there.
Yeah. Wow. Sorry, it's just like, by the way, it's okay if we cuss and it's okay if we cry. Okay. And I'm speaking to myself for most of that. But like, it's it's a super heavy and a real thing. Again, that maybe some of us foolishly thought could never happen. But going back to last summer, can we talk about like the impacts? I don't want to say obviously, but like California is currently and for the foreseeable future, one of the states that I feel like is pushing back and holding safe space statewide for women. But I mean, you don't have to go far. And anyway, so what is the women's building doing in response to last summer's Supreme Court decision?
Yeah, so after that, we definitely wanted to, I mean, that's always been a priority, but as being in California, like maybe we're not as impacted as much by certain things. But we were like, okay, we need to just make sure that we're supporting whatever we need to support to make sure that women still have the right to choose. They have access to different resources that they need in response to this. So we actually joined a coalition on statewide for the California Reproductive Justice Coalition. Awesome. Once again, doing that work collectively. So we did there's a lot of bills that we've been working on in partnership with them just to make sure that California, for example, we were supporters of Prop 1, making sure that California makes it accessible and not against the law for women or birthing people to make that decision.
And that passed.
Yeah, and it passed.
November,
last
right?
November. Yeah. So that was one of them.
Codifying.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. Codifying rights. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yep.
And then like multiple bills. There's like things that sometimes you're like, I didn't even know we had to. Yeah. Right. I was like, I didn't even know we had to put that into. But you have to put everything into like law or like. And there's things that like also you're like, how is this even in our Constitution?
Lawyers
in our Californian
like, but
law.
I'm like, that's what I'm thankful for lawyers.
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
like, it's there. That's what they do.
Yeah. So it's really awesome because that coalition is made up of like a lot of like both. Service providers, grassroots organizations like that are just doing resources. There's lawyers, so different knowledge bases, and then we're all able to work together to figure out what are our priorities and how do we make this happen. We're also like in response, like when we think about that too, it's like we only think about abortion for reproductive rights, and we think about that right to choose. But it's not. It's so much more. Like reproductive justice and reproductive rights are so much more than just the right to choose. We have to think of it holistically in the big picture. So we do a lot of work with also looking at menstrual health. Like that sometimes it's like these things that we we don't think about that are connected. It's like birth control, what kind of birth control, education. So making sure that those things are available to community members and to ourselves. Like we have to educate ourselves and community. It's always like both. We're always doing this collectively. We're co-sponsoring a bill for SB260, which is making sure, so that is to put $20 for CalWorks recipients to get $20 for menstrual health products. Oh. Because, menstruating people and women, like, there's some women who have to choose between buying a pad or buying, paying a bill. When we think about reproductive justice and reproductive health, it's so much more than abortion rights. I mean, that's super important, but it's, we have to think about it as a whole as well, and thinking about it from like menstrual health to menopause.
We always just find out always have like this word abortion, but it's not only that. There are other issues that entails like reproductive rights and reproductive justice, like. The access to the anti-conception and also for example, the care that you need, like and that entails having access to that care and like having knowledge about like menstruation or like menopause or what happened on that phase or what will happen, and also just like kind of like giving information and resources and access to like having like a like just knowledge of what entails.
Yeah. I'm going to make a shameless plug based on something that you brought up, and that is there's a restaurant in Austin, Texas called El Dorado Cafe. It's amazing. And oddly, the owner is from Fort Worth. It's like super, but anyway, they still designate men's and women's restrooms, but my wife and a couple of other female friends have told me that they actually have tampons and pads in the bathroom, just for free.
Yeah.
And my wife was like, why can't everyone do this?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And here we have, like at the women's building, we always have pads and tampons available. And everywhere should.
Right.
And, fortunately, California is, like, for example, we're putting them in schools, but that's still not enough. So that's why we're doing this SB260 is because, California is an expensive place. And
Yeah.
And then 80% of people who are on CalWorks are women. So it's like, or menstruating folks. So it's like, we need these resources, and this is what we need, and this is what we need to get. And this bill would really like help that, that need that women have and menstruating people have. And people have to make tough decisions every day. It's like, oh, do I pay this bill? Like, do I pay? I mean, pads are expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Tampons are expensive. Mm-hmm. Or do I go get pads or tampons? So
mm-hmm.
that's why we're really advocating for this, and also finding like different other avenues to support things like this that
mm-hmm.
think about reproductive justice and reproductive health as a whole.
Mm-hmm. And where in the process is this bill?
So we just got we're in Senate governmental office.
Okay.
And now we're going to go on to the next process. Fortunately, everybody's pretty much for it. There's been a few who are not, and questionable
mm-hmm.
reasons why.
Mm-hmm.
And, but
we don't need to dwell on that.
We don't need to dwell on that. For the most part, most people are behind it.
Cool.
And yeah, just for a plug, is we will probably need like a lot of folks to do like public comments, and we follow the women's building, because that's really important. Is like, we do, as a person, one individual, you have an ability to take action and be a change agent. So it's like, sometimes those calls, even if you're like, oh, there's gonna be other people, you'd be surprised, because other people are saying there's gonna be
the
other
same
people.
Yeah.
So it's like, we need everyone to call sometimes for those public hearings, and that makes a huge difference. Just to call,
petition as
or
well.
sign a petition. It's like, so we're always like circulating that on our social media. But yeah, it's going along, and we're hoping that it does get passed into the overall budget of California.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what the goal is.
Okay. Well, you did a call to action there.
Yeah.
So that's the 5 people who listen to this podcast will hear it. Well, anything else? Because I feel like we've got a lot of good stuff. We've covered a lot of ground. But I do want to offer, if there's anything coming up that you want to plug, or anything really glaringly obvious and important that we skipped over.
One thing that also just like needs to highlight is just that this organization and this building just like has been supported and created by volunteers. So it's always, most of the work that we have here is just like carried by volunteers. So I just like follow us on social media. I have to do my pitch now. See?
For sure.
And find us on Facebook, on Instagram. I mean, more professional LinkedIn, and but also just like go to our website and just try to get involved. And we have different programs, and we need like as much volunteers as we can get, and on tax program, food pantry, and referral services. So just follow us, or just try to engage with us when in advocacy or community engagement. And also, for example, when we have like community fairs here, which like we held one every 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
So we need volunteers just to help us just to settle up and just put together stuff. So, and also welcoming people, so please follow us and just like engage with us.
Awesome. Thank you, Maria. Did you have anything else to add, Kristen?
I think, like how we, going back to the history, I feel like it's all connected. So I think, like people can be part, both what Maria was saying, it's like we can be part of this, like history, like all of these things are connected. And if we just take part and we build community, like that's super important, because together, like we could make changes within society, and we could make what the women's building means and like what it holds, like actually making that mission possible. So, but we don't do it just as an organization. It's also like in connection and with community.
That was Maria Ortega and Kristen Acosta from the San Francisco Women's Building. We're so excited for our next episode. It'll be all about Friends of the Urban Forest. Be on the lookout for episode 17 next Tuesday. Music for Storied San Francisco was produced, performed, and curated by Otis McDonald. Michelle Kilfeather does original photography for us. Aaron Lim of Bitch Talk Podcast is our contributing producer. And the show is produced and hosted by me, Jeff Hunt. Now in our 5th season, we have more than 200 episodes available on our website, storiedsf.com, or wherever you listen to podcasts. If you're able to, please rate and review the show. And drop us a line at storiedsf@gmail.com. Thanks for listening. Stay strong, weird, and healthy. And we'll see you next time on Storied San Francisco.
This podcast is a proud member of the BFF.FM podcast network. Learn more at podcast.bff.fm.
BFF.FM, best frequencies forever.